Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's the monkey, and I'm here to kill everyone.
Oh, shit. What happened? Did you kill Michelle, the monkey?
Yep. Ding ding. That's the sound of
When,
me playing my little drums.
when I refer to you, do I have to say the every time? So it's not, I can't just call you monkey, it's the monkey?
Well, yeah, because my first name is the last name monkey.
Okay, and it is
It's my full
pronounced,
name.
not the,
Nope, is the.
the monkey. Okay,
Everybody
cool.
asks me that all the time. It's kind of like, you know, those other names that sound alike.
Why do you kill things?
As you would know if you had seen the newest The Monkey movie, you don't deserve a fucking explanation.
that,
I owe you nothing.
I would be, look, don't get me wrong, I definitely wanna see it, but I feel like I would be significantly more excited if it was specifically called The Monkey Movie.
Well, guess you're gonna have to go talk to Osgood Perkins and get on that creative writing team. Oh, by the way, JD, I was tricking you. This is Michelle. I bet you didn't
It's
even know.
Michelle! I
It
didn't
is
until you
Michelle.
said so right there, you were so
Yeah, I
clever
realized it
and
had to come clean.
tricksy.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was such a good
uh,
impersonation of a monkey.
it was incredible. How you doing,
Ooh, ah, ah,
Michelle?
ah.
I mean, now
I'm
you did just get
tired
back
as
from seeing The
hell.
Monkey.
Yeah, the monkey was great, and I think it made me exhausted because I haven't laughed that hard since Megan.
It's
It
a
is
funny one.
very good. Yeah, yeah.
I
I read
guess
an interview that they tried to play it straight at first, and then they went, "This isn't really working," and then they went over the top, and they're like, "Oh, okay, more of that."
it does, like, I don't have a problem with that, but it does take me kind of by surprise because I definitely from like the way they were promoting it, I got the vibe that it was going to be a little bit more heavy, a little bit more serious, kind of aggressive sort of. Is it still gory and gross?
It is ridiculously gory, and even before I saw it, I had
Okay.
seen a couple, like, quick reviews that I tried to scroll past, but even people who said that they didn't really like it, they still love the kills, and I feel like basically everybody's going to feel that way. This movie could just be a showcase of ways people could die, and that would just be awesome in and of itself. But it's also just, like, fucking ridiculous and
Yeah.
so funny and just great. I highly recommend if you like movies like Megan, where they are just, like, gonna make you laugh out loud with their absurdity, but also have, like, really good horrific moments of, like, "Oh, shit." Highly, highly
And
recommend The Monkey.
the monkey is adapted from a Stephen King thing, right?
It is, yep, one of his
Yeah.
short stories
I
that I've
love
not read since high school.
I love how in the last several years Stephen King has developed this sort of side life as like he's kind of the stamp of approval on a lot of horror movies now, right? It's like, oh, if shit, like Stephen King really put his voice up for like Late Night with the Devil and The Coffee Table. And obviously this one is based on his stuff, but he's been notoriously critical of adaptations of his own stuff, you know? So that's like everybody just kind of looks to like, is it good? I don't know. Did Stephen King like it? And I think he's kind of earned that spot.
I read Dread Central's articles to keep up to date on movie reviews or, movie releases, and they constantly have these clickbait titles like, "This is Stephen King's favorite movie on Netflix," and I think that's definitely part of it. They're like, "You won't believe this one Stephen King movie that's leaving Amazon Prime forever. The movie that Stephen King says is his least favorite." It's definitely half their articles are,
Sure.
"You won't believe what Stephen King thinks of this movie." And I always click into it every time. I gotta know, what did he
Sucker.
tweet about 2 years ago and now got an entire article written about his opinion for?
For
I like
sure,
Dread
for
Central.
sure.
They're
You
clickbaity as fuck.
you also mentioned Megan in there, Megan 2.0 coming out. And we were talking before we hit the record button, and I got to bring it up here on the record. I get it. It's just an early teaser, right? That's all it is. And we've seen this sort of thing before. And I really, really enjoyed the first Megan film, and I thought it was really well executed with the special effects with the Megan character. Uh, I really hope the stuff in that quick little teaser is just like whip something together, get it out there. This is definitely not what the final product is going to look like because oh boy, it was. And I only mention it because I thought it was done so well in the first one, but oh man, you've seen it, haven't you, Michelle?
Yes, and, I've been able to pinpoint what bothers me about it, and it's that
It
in
looks
the first
cheap.
movie well, in the first movie, Megan looks like a doll, a realistic doll, but a doll all the same. In the little snippet, the little teaser trailer for Megan 2.0, she looks like a CGI'd creation or doll, and it's like, well, that takes out all of the whole part of this is an uncanny valley doll. She
Right.
looks heavily touched up with CGI, and I'm sure the whole thing is, wow, Megan has now evolved to become very realistic, but it's like, well, at a certain point, you're just gonna have a little girl then. Why would you go to CGI then? Because she looks less realistic as a CGI. Unless I'm wrong, and this is really just how robots look, and then we're fucked. If that's maybe just what they look like right now, and I'm going to look like with my eyes in person at a robot and be like,
It
that
looks
shit
like
looks
bad CGI.
CGI. But in real life, then my brain explodes and it's all over. And the simulation, we did our best. Well, actually, no, I take that back. We really clearly have not done our
We
best.
we
I
we
did my
have
best.
we have not even remotely done
We
our best as a
Yeah.
species.
Yeah. When this simulation's done and I take off my VR headset and I go, "Wow, I'm so glad that that's not a real thing." And I go to leave it a review in the Steam store, it is going to get a bad review and be like, "Oh, nobody would actually live like that. This is completely ridiculous." And then I'm going to go back to my cryo chamber and go into hibernation because I just play video games to keep myself occupied on my way to okay, I was gonna say Jupiter, but then I gotta say on my way to Uranus. Like I have to if I'm gonna pick a planet, you know.
You do
On my
not
way
want
to 69, that's the newest planet. If I named planets, it would be like Yo Mama.
no
Yo Mama's so big, she has her own moon.
nobody wants to be within the orbit of my anus.
Uh, yeah,
Well, I
that's
made
probably
it
true.
weird all this.
No,
Well,
now I'm thinking about if I had my own orbit and all the things that would just like I would have my cats with me everywhere I go, and that would be great. They wouldn't like it. But I would.
I mean, to be fair, you do, as every body of mass does, have your own gravity. So, in a way, at least the possibility of you having an orbit exists.
Well, if there's one thing I know, I'm all about defying gravity. So I refuse to accept that. Oh, by the way, saw my friend Kate
Uh,
today. Hi, Kate. She sometimes
Hi,
listens.
Kate.
And she was telling me that during nap time, her adorable daughter insists on several songs, and she has a very particular routine. And that her daughter requested the Flying Monkey song, and so Kate could not figure out what this song was, made one up, and then later on learned that when her daughter is requesting the Flying Monkey song, she is requesting Defying Gravity. Just, I'm about to go sleep, mom. I would like some simple songs, and then I would like you to belt out all of Defying Gravity very easily so I can get to sleep.
And what's interesting about that is, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of that song, but that's not really a bedtime
Oh, I
song.
know. Yeah, Kate knows her child is weird, but Kate is also weird. So, like, duh.
That's
That's how
fantastic.
genetics work.
I still haven't
Yeah.
seen that movie because it's still only the $20 still in theaters or $25 own it now thing, and I'm a cheap ass who won't pay for it till I can just rent it for like $6. But I am really looking forward to seeing it.
I could have swore. Oh, no, it is still only rentable for $20.
Oh,
That's
believe me,
insane.
I'm
Or
correct.
buyable. It's not
I
rentable. Yeah.
I check every single day
Yeah.
waiting
That's
because
crazy.
the day it becomes, well, I mean, it's still playing in theaters. I
Yeah.
think once its theatrical run legitimately wraps up, that'll probably change real quick. But Yeah, I am. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that one. I am also still very much looking forward to seeing the Wild Robot when that finally becomes available.
That movie, you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry so
Well, I
hard.
mean, I cry all the goddamn time, so it's
There.
whatever.
Did you cry watching today's Shudder movie?
No, I did not
Oh,
cry watching
okay.
Little Bites. No, I
Okay.
did not.
Little bites. You should probably get to it. This episode's
Yeah,
already
yeah,
late, and now it's
yeah.
10 minutes later, and it's all my fault.
Michelle, none of our episodes are ever late, nor are they early. They arrive precisely when we mean them to.
That's almost a Lord of the Rings quote.
Yeah,
Just like a wizard, our episodes are never late or on time. That's crazy that you just like almost quoted Lord of the Rings, and I don't even think you know what that property is.
all
That's
right, well,
wild.
say goodnight, Michelle.
Oh, good night, Michelle.
God damn it. Little
Okay,
Bites.
little
Let's
bites.
talk about this movie. Michelle, what did you know about Little Bites going in?
Right in your blah, blah, blah. Let me try that again. Writer, director, Spider One. That is the extent of my knowledge.
Yep, me as well. Spider One, of course, perhaps well known to some folks as the former frontman of a now I believe defunct band called Power Man 5000, and also the brother of one Mr. Robert Zombert, aka Rob Zombie. And he made a movie a couple of years ago called Allegoria that apparently we talked about, and look, I'm just being honest. I don't really remember a whole lot about it, but that's all I knew about this. Was written and directed by Spider One, once again starring Chrissy Fox. Which, pardon me, I know it's a ridiculous comparison, but that's basically like his Sherry Moon Zombie. It's like his like they're like a whole team, but also like they're a relationship whole thing. It's that sort of thing happens.
Well,
I'm
you could have compared
rambling
her to
here.
Flanagan and Kate Siegel. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
then he's not
he's
compared to his sibling.
he's the brother of Robert Zombert,
I
so
know, but you said it
I
was a ridiculous comparison, so I was giving you another one as an
oh
option. You
fine.
can just have that.
Anyway,
You're welcome.
that's all we knew was this guy did it. That's,
Yeah.
so that's the movie we're talking about today. Shutter
Yep.
exclusive, Little Bites. We didn't discuss a Descrippy script, but honestly, I mean, first of all, the one on IMDb and the one on Shutter are identical, and honestly, I think most of this is revealed so early in the movie that I don't really consider it too spoilery. Do you, Michelle?
Nah, I don't really care what I spoil about this
Wow,
movie.
wow. So I'm gonna hit him with the Descrippy script, and then maybe I'll give him a little behind the scenes here once we really get into it.
A little bite of some
Uh,
behind the scenes.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yep.
Also, Michelle, I hope you get the vibe because I was gonna tell you this before we started recording, but I do want you to be because I was thinking about my spoiler-free thoughts, and I
Mhm.
realized there were some things that I was saying that even though I didn't think I was saying anything, I was saying things. So be careful on this one,
Oh,
okay?
don't worry. I won't have a lot to say in the spoiler-free section
this
or
is
even
gonna
the spoiler-heavy
this is
section.
gonna be hilarious. So anyway, here is the Descrippy script. It says here, in a desperate attempt to protect her 10-year-old daughter, a young widow allows a nightmarish monster to slowly eat her alive. Little Bites, written and directed by Spider One, a Shudder exclusive, 106 minutes TVMA. Michelle,
Yep.
spoiler free thoughts, please.
I like the parts where there were some bites of different sizes. For the most part, they were little, um, and sometimes they were not, and that's pretty cool. Um, I'm gonna be honest, it's been more than 24 hours, and I just saw The Monkey, which has, like, really raised the stakes for what I want in a movie, and, I did not care for this, and I have forgotten most of it. We are going to go with a 1.75. This is one that
Wow.
will work for some people. It did not work for me. I do like the bites. The bites are kinda cool. But it was very slow for me, unfortunately. So 1.75 from
One
me, the
point one
monkey,
point
definitely not Michelle.
seven five for Michelle. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Based on the initial response message I got from her yesterday, that 1.75 is even a little bit more generous than I was expecting.
I've had time
With
to marinate and been like,
uh
1.75 because it's one of those did not work for me, but it's not
yeah,
one of those where like this should not work for anybody and I'm very
right,
mad about it, which has basically become all of M. Night Shyamalan's films where I'm like,
right.
you should not like this.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
are wrong for liking that isn't this. I get it. I just did not care for it.
Word.
Yeah. JD,
Yeah.
do you have some bite-sized thoughts to give us
Some
about this movie?
some spoiler free thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a movie that honestly uh there are things about it that normally are things that kind of bother me about a movie, but for some reason they weren't really bothering me as much about this one, and I'll get into more specifics about that later. Uh I guess in a general way, there wasn't as much backgrounding going on as I usually care for, but it wasn't really bothering me all that much as it usually does. But this is also a movie that what I will say is that I was with this movie until I wasn't. There is a moment where this movie makes a choice, and I feel like that moment is going to overall determine for almost everyone who sees this whether or not the movie works for them or not. It's a huge gamble for the movie to take, but I at least respect that they said, no, we're going to make a choice here. This is what we're going to do. We're going with it. And they told what they wanted to tell. It also did not work for me ultimately, but like I said, for the most of it, uh, I was enjoying. I wasn't blown away by it. I agree with you that this movie is way too long. It could be a solid 20 minutes shorter, maybe even a half hour shorter, and I think it would still be in fact would be a much more effective film. But yeah, that one moment changed so much for me, and I am coming in at a two skull on this.
Two skulls from JD.
That gives us an average of 1.875.
Wow, that's a crazy amount of skulls to have. If you're gonna have some skulls, you may as well have whole
7/8
skulls
of a
or even like
skull.
halves, but like 7/8 of a skull, that's a choice. It's
It
definitely
sure
a
is.
choice.
It
This
sure
movie
is a
was full of those.
choice. Yeah, one
Yeah.
in particular. Okay, so if you want to see the movie before we spoil a bunch of stuff, now is when you're going to want to pause the episode. Don't forget to come back to hear what didn't work for us. Michelle,
Uh-huh.
um, all things can I tell everybody what you told me in the chat, or should we just should I
I
blank out that I even asked this question so they don't feel like
No,
I
I think you can tell them as long as they know, in case anybody associated with this film knows that I was being overly dramatic for
Michelle's had a rough
comedic
week.
effect. It was a rough week.
Michelle has had a real rough week.
Yeah.
But no, this was this was a beautiful moment. Michelle reached out to me yesterday, and she said, "Hey, have you started watching Little Bites already?" And I said, "I'm watching it now." And she said this. She said, and I quote, "Okay, I want to apologize in advance. I know we're both trying to be nicer to filmmakers in our reviews, but I don't know how we're going to get through an entire episode about this movie without using the phrase hot garbage." Now keep
Again,
in mind,
for comedic effect, if you
keep
were
in mind,
involved in this production.
keep in mind, She had asked me if I had watched the film already. What I have said is I'm in the process of watching it now. I was 35 minutes into a 105-minute film, and the message I get from Michelle is it's going to be very difficult for me to make this episode without using the phrase hot garbage. And I
Which
just,
24 hours later, I do not agree with. I think I
right?
was just very bored.
No, it's just, I was just like, oh man, Michelle. That's when you know, because Michelle is the kind of person who, like, I mean, you guys, if you've been listening for a long time, she's like it's so
I
hard for
really
me to
wanna
give
like
anything
stuff.
less than a one, right?
Yep.
She's very lenient on the low end of the spectrum or on the low end of the scale. But anyway, with all that in mind, this is an interesting moment that I've been curiously waiting for. Michelle,
Yeah.
would you I know you wouldn't like to, but would you please, for the folks who don't necessarily care to watch the film, summarize its events, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think I can do this pretty, quickly
Oh, I bet you
because
can.
it does take a very long time to get to some really big points, and I can just tell you what happens. Okay, Little Bites. There's a woman, her name is Mindy, and she hears a bell sometimes, and when she hears that bell, she gotta go to the man gotta suck her dry. There's just a man in her house who he takes little bites from her, and she's like, "This is fine." It's not fine. She doesn't actually think that, but she thinks this is better than the alternative. The alternative is that this man, Agyar, here's the thing. There's a whole part where this man teaches a little girl how to say his name and emphasizes that it's difficult. And I listened to that and retained nothing. So this man, aka vampire, aka whatever, Agyar, he just takes little bites of Mindy, and he's like, I would like to eat your daughter instead, and then I'll leave you alone. And she's like, no. And then, mother of the year stuff right there. And then Barbara Compton shows up and she's like,
Crampton,
hey, oh, Crampton, sorry. Miss Barbara. I see she and I were so close. I only call her Barbara and I could not remember her last name because,
fair.
I never need to use the full name of my bestie.
Your
Bestie
boy,
Barbara. That's what I call her.
your boys like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We mad tight. So Barbara, my buddy Barbara, I was like, "Oh, hey, there's my friend." I didn't even know she was filming this. She likes to keep things, pretty tight-lipped,
On the
because
DL.
she knows I'm so close friends with all these other people in the horror industry, and she doesn't want them to get jealous about the success. So Barbara, my bestie, she was texting me while I was watching this movie actually, and I was like, "You're pretty great, but everything else." So anyway, Barbara, she shows up and she's like, "Hey, I'm CPS." And Mindy's like, "That makes me angry because my daughter is staying with my mother and I am going to lie to you about my daughter and say that she's only there for a little bit. Even though it is okay for a grandmother to have her grandchild stay with her for a little bit. That's not illegal, but she's still like, "No, she'll be back on Tuesday." And Barbara's like, "I'll be back on Tuesday. What's that ringing bell? Oh, the room's empty. That's weird. Okay, bye." And then she leaves. Mindy, in the meantime, she's dying because this creature man vampire, Agar, he is still just like sucking her dry in a bad way. And she's like, "This is too much." And I think like even one little bite would be too much for me, but she, has better standards. I guess that's what happens when you actually like enjoy your children and want to keep them safe. I don't know what that's like because I had a different kind of childhood where if a vampire showed up and was like, "I'm going to slowly eat you unless you give me your daughter," I would have a new place to live because I would be living with that vampire now. I would have been handed over so quick. Anyway, so this keeps going on and she's trying to reason with the vampire guy and be like, "No, I don't like any of these situations." I'm not perfectly clear on why she agrees to this arrangement instead of just letting him starve to death, except that it's a metaphor, except it's also not a metaphor that makes a lot of sense, but it has to be a metaphor, but then certain parts do have to be literal. And that's a big part of why I went, about this. Barbara shows back up, and then she gets eaten. So now we're back in the literal territory. And then another guy from CPS shows up. And it's moments like this, which or what frustrated me about this is that I thought it was supposed to be a comedy for quite a while. Then it never actually got to the punchline, and I went, "Oh, no, this is just how this movie is." And one of those moments is the CPS worker's boss who shows up like, "Hey, have you seen Barbara?" And, Minnie's like, "Oh, I didn't know her name was Barbara. She told me a different name because she has a character name," and it got very meta and very weird for a bit. But he's like, "Oh, Barbara's very flaky. Okay, all looks good here, bye." And then he just like, "What?" What happened? So then Mindy's daughter comes back and the vampire leaves and then the vampire's back and he's like, "I'm a friend of your mother and please make sure you pronounce my name correctly." You know, in case she has other friends with the same name but a slightly different pronunciation. I want to make sure she knows that I, the creepy vampire man, have talked to her daughter and I do need this to be very drawn out to make sure she knows that I know that she's here. Um, then my Amazon Prime account froze, and would not play the movie anymore, and I took a little break. And I, like, drank a Mountain Dew, gave it a half hour, and I almost forgot to come back to the movie, and I thought that was just the ending. And then I did get to watch the last 10 minutes, and I remember paying attention, but I've completely forgotten what those last 10 minutes are right now. So we're just gonna say that, whoa, it was a romance the whole time. Vampire and Mindy, they are now happily married. And the vampire man treats Mindy's daughter like his own, and it's all just like a happy. It was a misunderstanding. It was like a BDSM relationship the whole time, where she was consenting to the bites. And I've forgotten how this movie ends, but you know what? That's basically it. Little bites.
Um, in what part of this movie did you determine that it was a normal relationship and they ended up living as mother and father happily?
When I forgot the last 10 minutes and
Oh,
then panicked
okay,
during this
okay.
recording of it.
No, so what? I mean, to clear it up, what happens
Yes,
at the
please. I
end?
need you to remind me.
Let me sort of pick up. When Barbara's boss comes to hang out, what happens is that he has an interview with the little kid by herself, and the implication is that the kid knows exactly what she needs to tell the guy to get him to go the fuck away. And so she tells him exactly what he needs to hear because the mother is so nervous that if they talk alone, it's all gonna fall apart because she doesn't want the secret getting out. But then, yeah, that guy leaves, and then she's like, "We gotta go fight him together." And then it seems for a minute like, oh, maybe she's actually just gonna give her kid to the dude. And then uh, she goes and Aguiar kills her or seems to kill her, bites her real good, and then it looks like he's gonna bite the little girl, but then the little girl bites him, and then the mom starts biting him too. And that's like how they beat him is they both just like eat him instead. There's this whole thing where he's like, "Oh, you're no different than me. You're killers too." And it's like, "Yeah, but you're trying to kill us just to survive. We're trying to kill you because you're trying to kill." That's a completely different. But anyway, and then Aguiar apparently dies, and then there's like a quick fast forward to the future, and the girl is all grown up and she's still with her mom, and they still eat people together. The end.
Thank you for reminding me. That is all such a strong choice, and I just blanked it out. I think it's because that's
Really?
where it got really extra weird
Well,
for me, and I went, "They can't possibly."
and that is and that's why I didn't want to say. I kept saying when I'm sort of thinking over it with myself earlier through the day. I kept saying there's a moment right at the very end, and I didn't want to say that specifically in the spoiler-free section
Mhm.
because that puts all sorts of expectation and pressure on stuff. But no, I was like I said, they never tell you specifically who is this Agyar, why is he there, what does he want. They sort of generally imply that like he wants the little girl, but somehow has made a deal with the mom where the mom lets him feed off of her for over and over and over, and he leaves the girl alone. And then like there's some good shots. Like the creature is pretty cool. I could have done without frankly a lot of the conversational moments between the monster and the mom. I thought that was a little weird. But normally because I would be the kind of person who's like, yeah, but who is the monster? What does he want? Where did he come from? What's the whole background here? But it did get to a point where that wasn't really bothering me, and I was genuinely really with this movie. I mean, I wasn't blown away by it, but I was real positive on it. I was probably in like a 3.5 skull kind of territory. I was really enjoying it. And then that moment happens where just out of the blue, the girl attacks the dude, and then the mom attacks the dude, and now all of a sudden they're monsters. And there is that whole conversational exchange where it seems like they're trying to have this big philosophical moment, but it's the most obvious no, these are not the same thing situation I've ever. So I don't know if I'm supposed to take any of that seriously or what. This is one of those movies where the last couple of minutes completely upended it for me. I have no idea what, I'm sure there's something that what I'm saying is I something blew right past me. Right, I'm not the kind of guy who's like I'm not going to let you say it went over my head, but I'm also gonna not going to say that I was above it. Like clearly there's something going on here that didn't register with me or something that I missed. But yeah, it just that ending just completely upended this whole thing for me.
My biggest problem with this movie is first off, I was asking all those questions of who is this guy? Why is he here? What's he doing? And not getting any answers. So that did frustrate me very early on of like, why is she in this arrangement? And it never seems like that gets answered. And that's such a big question to never tell me in a movie that has a longer than 90-minute runtime. So never answering that when you're already over a standard movie length was what actually like upset me about this. I was like, I need some answers. And usually I can accept a movie as either literal or metaphorical. And maybe the metaphor I don't fully get. A good example of this would be flow, which I had some ideas. But I went, that was definitely a metaphor, but I do not fully understand what the metaphor is. And then I went and read a lot of other people's ideas of what the metaphor of flow was. And I went, oh, okay, this aligns with what I was thinking and also like fills it in. And like that's cool. That all seems very well thought out, even if there is no specific one answer for it. But this, I don't know if the metaphor, if it exists, if Spider One very clearly thought it out and all the implications of everything going on in this movie in order to make that metaphor work, because all of the ones that I've thought of or read online don't seem to perfectly work. But then if it's literal, it absolutely doesn't make sense because, like, why is the room empty if people go in there until they get eaten? Like, is it Schrodinger's vampire? He's both there and not, depending on whether the door is open. There's just it did not work for me, and I found myself getting very frustrated, instead of enjoying it. I do like all the bites, though. All the little bites are pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is also a part of it. Like a lot of the backgrounding that was missing didn't trouble me so much. But yeah, like I wasn't there. There was a whole moment towards the end there where I definitely thought for several minutes that it's like, oh wait, all of a sudden is this supposed to be like the monster doesn't even really exist and she's like a Babadook kind of thing where she's just been going crazy. But then of course the kid sees everything and the dude actually like comes to their door, and they have all of those interactions. Um, Clearly the thing has a name, and again, you're right. Like I get the point of that scene, but man, does it go on and on and on. Um, there's the whole Heather Langenkamp character, which we haven't even touched on. The mom is out at the park, and Heather Langenkamp shows up, and she's just this random lady who's talking to I can't remember the mom's name, and I feel
Mindy?
terrible. Mindy, yeah.
Mm.
She's talking to her, and she's talking like about how it's like I can tell you're a mom and this, that, and the other. And then as she's leaving, she's clearly got scars all over her body that are the same kind of scars that match the wounds that Mindy has all over her body right now. So it's like, was she also a victim of this thing and now she's a survivor? How did she survive? Did she kill? Because obviously she didn't kill Aguiar because Aguiar is still here. So are there more of these things? Did she make some kind of a deal somewhere along the line? Like I was just like that. I was like, it seems like I it almost feels like that was there just to put Heather Langenkamp in the movie. And I feel like you could have left that entire section of the movie out and nothing would change at all, except you don't get that discussion about motherhood. But I think there was already plenty of implications about the strength of motherhood and the resiliency of motherhood throughout the movie as it is. But yeah, I
That
just,
scene is actually really important to one of my ideas of what I thought it might be a metaphor for.
all right,
Um,
do
so
tell.
the 2 for a very long time, I thought that this was a metaphor for some sort of addiction, for some reason, alcoholism, and how, like, it's eating her alive and she'll always answer the call and that kinda thing. Again, nothing I could think of, seemed to perfectly fit. That was one idea, and then during that scene, I started thinking that it was about motherhood, like, the whole thing, and about how, like, it can eat a woman alive. They can give everything for their children, and I think part of that is because, I've just been talking to, like, a lot of my mom friends lately, and I have talked to them a lot about Night Bitch, the Amy Adams movie, and I've just had that in the back of my mind, and so part of me is like, "Oh, this is a thing I'm thinking about a lot," but that's when she's like, "Oh, I can tell you're a mother too," and then they both have the same bites. I'm like, "Well, maybe that's what they're going for." But again, none of these theories 100% work. But one of them would kind of work, because of that scene. If not, it's very lacking, but that's the only reason I can think of to justify
Well,
it.
and I guess for me, um, I have to just reject the idea that any of this is metaphorical. For me, there's like, look, the
I hate
kid
it as a
sees
literal
the
story, though.
kid sees the monster, the mother and the kid attack and destroy. And so yeah, I mean they do work together and they do defeat, but they defeat the monster by becoming the monster together. And I'm not sure what they're trying to say there. Like even that whole exchange where he's just like, "You're no different than I am." Like it felt like was I supposed to take that seriously as a philosophical premise? Because I don't know. It just the bit like the conclusion for this for me and what I'm looking for in stories was very unsatisfying.
It definitely was unsatisfying. That is part of my concern about it. Uh, but for me, like, even you explaining that ending and how it sounds like it can't be metaphorical, the way that you explained it made it sound even more metaphorical to me. Of, like, they defeat the thing by becoming the thing, and I'm like, "Yeah, metaphorical, but what does it actually mean?" And I think that's where all my frustration came, is I was like, I don't know if Spider-One, I would usually say, like, the writers, but it is just one person writing and directing, if, they knew exactly what was going on in their movie, or if they just threw some stuff together and went, "This would be pretty cool to do," which is also very possible. It's definitely possible. We live in a world full of possibilities, and this movie existing is one of them.
Yep, it sure is. It's a movie that made some choices, and well, maybe it'll be for you. Maybe it won't. There's only one way to find out. Don't take our word for it. We're just a couple of schlubs who clearly know everything about horror movies, and I mean, you don't have to. You'd be wise to take our advice, but you certainly don't have to listen to a couple of the smartest and most well educated and historically trained horror fans in the history of horror fandom.
Yeah, 2 people very well known in the film industry.
Right.
We both have
Legendary
2
horror
master's
critics.
degrees in just horror as a genre. I have a
Yes.
PhD in spookiness.
Yeah.
So, I know what a spooky
Oh,
thing is.
you have a PhD, MD in squelching.
Well, that one. I am going to teach a class
They
on some
had to
squelching.
they had to invent a new degree for you that combines the PhD and the MD to make you. How is it a medical degree? Just because I don't know.
A lot of my squelches in my collection are medical scenes. That is one of the highest. You'd think it's
So
a lot of kills. It is like half medical and autopsy and stitching if a person's limb comes off. Lots of medical squelches.
so at this point you've just literally seen enough medical footage involving squelching that you could probably do open heart surgery.
Oh yeah, but that I already knew I could do open heart surgery because I did watch like 75% of Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
So I'm basically a doctor because I know
Yeah.
that that move or that show is very accurate.
Have you
You know
stayed at
what
a Holiday
movie?
Inn Express recently?
I have not.
Hmm.
But I did see The Monkey, and that movie that better have so many fucking squelching subtitles. Just watching it, I'm like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to this hitting video on
It
demand."
looks pretty squelchy to you.
It is ridiculously squelchy, and if there are not at least 10 squelching subtitles, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Fair
I'm
enough.
gonna lose my shit if there are not squelching subtitles that I can add to my collection. This has to be in the MVP. There are so many.
I've heard of a lot of people who have lost their shit. I have not ever once heard about somebody who ever found it again. Where is everybody's shit going, Michelle?
Pipes from the toilet.
But then
Duh.
but how did we lose it then? We didn't lose it, we let it go.
Well, sometimes I put mine in a bowl and then I go back later and the bowl's empty and I assume somebody else put it in the toilet. So I don't know where it is, but I'm assuming it made its way there.
All right, well, so moving on, Michelle made a letterboxed for the podcast a while back, and she's got a bunch of cool lists on there. But I started doing a list as well, and I just want to. It's just all it is a list of all of the horror movies that I'm watching this year that I'm seeing for the first time. Obviously, there's a bunch of new movies that'll be on that list, but it's also like older movies that are that I've just seen for the first time. There's some cool ones on there that I think everybody should check out. I don't have any like notes or messages about them, but I do give them all scores. And there's some stuff on there you should check out. I especially recommend a movie that's available on Tubi for free right now called Basil. That's Beezel. But yeah, if you're curious about what I'm watching, check out the We Watch Shudder on Letterboxd.
I am actually looking at it right now, and I have talked to you about every single one of these movies to some extent. So that's kind of fun. That
When did
like
we talk about followers?
Uh, oh, I had not gotten to the last row.
Oh,
So
right
we have
on.
not talked about followers. But hey, this will be great when Michelle in review comes up. You're gonna have a list
That's
of
a
what you
big
can
part
talk
of
about.
yeah. That's a big part of why I started doing it was because I'm real
Nice.
bad about remembering what I have seen. Michelle, now that I'm looking at this list, how is that lost episode project going?
Oh, have not started it yet. But we'll be starting it tomorrow. I hung out with
Can
one of the people from the Lost Episode
can
project, and that's why
can
it
we
hasn't started.
can I say anything about it yet, or
Yeah,
am I
no, you
still
can.
not allowed?
You
So
can. Yeah.
yeah, we saw Hard Eyes, guys,
Oh,
back
Josh
when
Rubin.
just
Mm,
before Valentine's Day, because yeah, it's Josh Rubin written and directed, and Jenna, who never watches the movie, Jenna actually watched the movie, and came to join us again almost a full year. After her first appearance on the Cabin in the Woods episode, which was incredibly popular episode for us, but we recorded it. and there were all sorts of fun recording issues. And Michelle is currently in the process, or will be in the process, of
Will be.
what you were estimating this is going to be a 20-hour editing job, Michelle. Where
Yeah,
did you get that estimate?
because I'm a perfectionist and I will be going back and just editing the episode in general.
Okay,
If I'm doing this, it's gonna be done properly.
I thought you were maybe just budgeting that much time just in case it took that long.
No, I'm budgeting
And
that because that's what it will take.
wow, that's
Because if I'm editing an episode, I'm editing the
and
episode.
now you understand why I don't do this, or at least why I didn't do it for this. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I came to Michelle and said we might just lose this one, and she said, "The fuck we will."
Yeah, I'll do it.
All
I'll
right,
fucking do it.
you'll be the hero of this picture, Michelle.
Yeah, you don't wanna know the steps that I've got. There's a reason I have not started yet.
Uh,
Because if I'm doing this, I'm doing it properly, and I have so many things to go download to prepare me
as
for
a,
it.
I mean, as a small Easter egg for those of you who have listened to this far, all three of us really liked that movie, Hard Eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and we had a good time talking about it. I do very much appreciate Michelle using her incredible focus and multitasking skills to do something that I just literally would not have had the patience and ability to be able to do. So it's once again another demonstration of how our various mental illnesses reinforce each other to form a super team.
Yeah. These are the things I'm good at, collecting squelching subtitles and being patient. Those are my strengths.
Well, and
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, stick to itiveness and
Oh,
obsessiveness,
yeah. I'm definitely very good at obsessing
and so am
and,
I. But
not
we
thinking it's
obsess.
good enough and then
Yeah,
working on it until it is good enough and then never feeling satisfied. Once I get done, it's like, people probably don't even know we had an episode like 2 years ago where my audio did not record, and I went, "Fuck
this
that,"
this is
and
so
I
great.
went back.
Can I tell them? Can I?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
This is what she did. Her and all that happened was her audio quality wasn't super great. In fact, a situation that we've bumped into since then, and just said, you know what, it's fine. Our listeners will forgive us. Just go with it. Michelle, because we record our audio separately. I record my side, she records her side, and then we just sort of crop it all together before it goes up. She went back through and, like a fucking movie ADR, re recorded every single word she spoke in that episode so that she could edit them back into the episode and it didn't sound how it sounded.
It was Terrifier. It was the Terrifier episode.
Terrifier. She
Yep.
re recorded every line of speech from that episode.
I wasn't gonna half-ass it.
Well,
Now I'll half-ass it, but
oh
back then
yeah,
I had very
that
high standards.
right. Eventually, we learned that. I mean, I wouldn't say we've ever half-assed it. I'd say we have occasionally three-quarter-assed it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
At least at any given time, one of us might be half-assing it, but the other one's probably full-assing it, and so we do equal out in that way. I don't think
Yeah.
there's really many times, if ever, where both of us are half-assing it and
Right.
then they get an actual half-assed episode.
Right. Never
That's how math
happened.
works.
Not once.
Never.
Correct.
No,
That's exactly
definitely.
how math works.
Maybe like a 5/8 episode on occasion if one of us isn't
Perhaps.
on our game. Mm,
Perhaps. But
perhaps. Well,
anyway.
I
So
got nothing
that's
else to say.
I don't either. What's coming up next week?
Michelle
Next
in
week.
review for
And
one of them.
also,
Yep.
humanist vampires seeking consenting suicidal person.
Yep.
I did accidentally just briefly tease that that was coming up this week, but I forgot we were doing little bites. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, if you've seen humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person, jump on our Facebook or our Instagram. Tell us your thoughts. We'd like to have some stuff to talk about from our listeners as we go in. If you haven't seen it, it's on Shudder right now. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. And then keep an eye on the website. We'll have the schedule for March coming up in probably by the time you hear this episode.
Yeah, I just have to go respond to your messages asking me about the schedule
Yeah, tell
that you
me.
sent me like a week ago.
Yeah, no, it's fine, Michelle. It's fine.
It's been a hell week.
Yeah, it's what a time
Oof.
to be alive.
Yeah. Well, okay. Little bites. Some people are gonna like it. I
Now, just
did not.
it's fine. Just say goodnight, Michelle.
Yeah. Good night, Michelle.